Welcome to the 2014 Amplify podcast, presented to you by the Oregon Ministry Network. Amplify took place April 3rd through 5th at First Assembly in Albany. The following message was brought to us by Monty Hip during the second general session.
Then. Now, in order to ensure that tonight goes in an amazing way, I want you to be able to make sure that your neighbors are really with you. I want you to be able to bring them along. So here's what I need you to do. That tonight there's going to be some moments when I'm going to speak a truth that I think you really need to hear. And when I do that, and I say this, lean forward. When I say lean forward tonight, I want you, everybody, to just go like, all right, here's the truth. This is the life changer. And when I say lean forward, everybody just lean forward, all right? Let's practice. Yada, yada, yada. Lean forward. Oh, no. See, there's people without passion in here. I need you to be able to lean forward. Everybody goes like, all right? So you got to have a look, all right? Yada, yada, yada. Lean forward. Okay, now look. If there's someone on your left or right tonight that does not lean forward because you care about their soul, because you're interested in their eternity. If they don't lead forward, you can grab them by the hair of the head and help them along because you care. Now, I just saw a young lady right over here look at the guy that's bald and going, how's this going to work out for me? So that's going to be fun. So fun to be able to watch you guys do your gifts and talents today, and got to hear some solos, got to see a couple ladies sing, some guys sing, got to see a couple of dramas. It was fun to be able to watch you at your best. And I'm so appreciative of the kind words that so many of you talked about in terms of our subject last night on tenacity. And I am absolutely amped out of my mind about what I believe God wants to do tonight. To take what we heard last night and then to be able to really apply something in an amazing way. So I'm going to swing the bat as hard as I can. And we're going to try to go for it. And we're going to try to make sure that we do this in a frame that will really make sense to you. Tonight, I'm going to speak to you on the subject, one word, and here it is, threats. Threats to a high-definition life. And there's all kinds of threats. And when you think of the word threat, it really is kind of an amazing thing when you stop to think about it, is that how many of you remember when you were little in grade school, there was somebody that you were afraid of? Anybody have one of those? Some of you are going, I was that person. I went to church when I was a kid, and there was a guy named Benny in our church that absolutely loved to mess with me. And he was this big dude. And I was not that tall, not that big, and he'd go, hey, Monty, I'm going to get you after church today. And the dude was like, I just like go to the bathroom at church, and I go to the bathroom, and there's Benny. And he'd get me in the bathroom in the corner, and he'd punch me, and I was like afraid to go to church. And I was like afraid of him, and I'll never forget this. One day I'm talking to my mom about it. I go, Mom, what should I do about Benny? He's always picking on me. And my mom, she's a sweet, small-framed little lady. And she goes, well, sweetheart, if he does that to you, you just stand up for yourself and you just punch him back in the name of Jesus. I was like, my mom is a holy woman. Filled me with confidence. Absolutely the truth what happened. The next Sunday, I go into the bathroom, and Benny's there, and you get kind of nervous when you kind of know what you're supposed to do. And sure enough, Benny comes at me, and he goes, hey, Monty, and he shoves me into this bathroom stall, and I just was like, you know, this is one time obeying my mom is not going to be a hard thing to do. I doubled up my fist in church. And I hit that guy as hard as I could hit him. He fell onto the bathroom floor. And then I walked out, and there was like a deacon, an usher outside. And he goes, what's going on in there? I go, there's a guy in there that needs prayer. Sometimes you got to eliminate the threats. Then there's things that happen at school. How many of you have ever had things happen at school that it's not that fun? We have this whole subject now called bullying. And I remember that one day in the 5th grade, these two guys determined that they were going to beat me up. And how it plays out in school is always funny, especially when you're kind of younger. They're like, Money, we're going to get you right after school. We're getting you, man. I was going, yeah, well, I'm not afraid of you. And I was absolutely freaked out of my mind. And they go, we're going to get you, man. We're going to beat you up. And so I'm thinking about it all during the rest of the day. And I'm thinking, man, I got to run home. I live about 3 blocks from school. I'm going to have to run and figure out my escape plan. And I knew that I was going to have to run. And you got to realize that I wasn't just running by myself, because I played the trombone and I had to carry my trombone. So when you're running with the trombone, that adds a little bit of package. School bell goes off, I take off running. I am running, and on the other end of the school, these guys see me, and the chase is on. And they're just running after me. I cut through this little alley. I come down into my little neighborhood, and I'm running towards my backyard. And I look in my backyard, and these guys are getting closer to me. They're, we're going to get you, Monty. And I'm just like running. All of a sudden, I see my brother, who's named Ron. So I start yelling his name. Ron! Run! They think I'm saying, run, run. Now, here's what was amazing about that day. How many of you have ever had a bad day turn into a good one? My brother Ron is 6'5", 275 pounds. He happened to be in the backyard that day. And I book it over my fence. These guys jump over the fence. My brother walks around behind the shed, and he's like, what are you boys doing? I'm behind my brother. You want some of me? You want some of this? You don't mess with me. That's my brother. Threat elimination in a matter of moments. It would be fun if life could have all these little challenges that you're going to face in life be eliminated by just running a few yards and being able to scream a name and the help would come. But the fact is, this generation, your world, is living with an amazing amount of threats, and this is not a drill. It's real. So for a couple of moments, if you'll grant me the opportunity, I want to just allow these few thoughts to hopefully sink in to this journey of, we want you to have a tenacity, but you need to be aware of what really is after you, because it really is an important thing. And I want to talk about just a couple of them, because I believe that there are some spiritual threats, gang, that are really, really important that you identify and how real they are in your life. And one of the things that you have to understand about threats is when someone really is in danger, but they don't understand how dangerous it is. I want you to look at the definition. And if you have it up there and you can put it on the screen tonight, I want you to look at the definition of threats. Here's what it says. An expression of intention to inflict evil, injury, or damage. An indication of something impending. It's about to happen. It's a threat. You must be aware, because the fact is it's impending. And there are some things that I believe are in play as it relates to your world, to which you live in, that are really threats, and they are impending. It's not a matter of if it will happen, but it's when it's going to be in play in your life. And as a result of that, I think we've got to be aware of a few words. The first one that I think maybe could be one of the most dangerous threats to your generation is this word: complacency. How many of you have ever heard someone say, whatever? Let me illustrate it like this. How many of you, lean forward. How many of you have ever been in your bed at night and it's all dark, no one's there, and you're just kind of by yourself, and all of a sudden you get this impending sense about you, and you just kind of go, and you see how long you can hold it. Put your hand up if you've ever done that. All right. Okay, I am very nervous about the number of people that have their hands raised in this room. is amazing is that how many times that you will see the young generation, people who are supposed to be alive in life, the season of life when it should just be an adventure, and I see teenagers living their life like this. You get up in the morning, you take a shower, you eat, and then you go to school. You see a good-looking girl walking down the hall. And there is this life that should be amazing, and yet there seems to be an incredible amount of complacency. Whatever. I don't care. No big deal. And the fact is, gang, is that you have got to become aware of the fact that complacency is a threat. That when you allow your life to be lived in a place that it just doesn't matter, the enemy is in close proximity. Because complacency is a tool of the enemy of God. It's one of the biggest threats to students today. And many of us have to be careful that we become satisfied. And that's why last night we talked about tenacity, because we'll go, hey, that's okay. It's not that bad. This is good enough. And the fact is we allow a level of mundaneness to become our signature. No expectation of the grand. Not really worried about the real bad. I just kind of live. Complacency. It's really a dangerous thing, and I want you to see what the Bible had to say about this, because I think it's really an amazing thing what you find in the Old Testament in a book that probably not all of you have read a lot about. It's the book of Amos. In chapter 6, he's talking about some things that we've got to be careful of when we think everything is fine. And here's what it says. Woe to those who are at ease in Zion. I got God. I got my life. It's cool. And listen to what it says in verse 3. Oh, you who put far away the day of disaster. It's no big deal. And bring near the seat of violence. Woe to those who lie in beds of ivory and stretch themselves out on their couches and eat lambs from the flock and calves from the midst of the stall, who sing idle songs. And listen to what it says in verse 6. And they anoint themselves with the finest oils, but they're not grieved over the ruin that could happen to Joseph. The chain that would end up bringing Jesus Christ into play. Woe to us when we're complacent. I want to encourage you to allow there to be a word that you try to put in play in your life instead of complacency. That you would allow there to be something that would be birthed in you that would have a passion associated to it. So the fact is that complacency results when there's no conviction or dream for your life. So here's the question that I want to ask you. What bothers you? What stirs you up that becomes a big deal? And it's amazing how we can allow so many things in life just to be in this category of whatever. And the fact is that whatever is a dangerous place, that as soon as you feel like that, not only do you feel it and you say it, be aware, because there's a threat to your life. And one of the things that I found that really brings about complacency in this whole gig called Christianity is that we really have a lack of discipline. There really is not a sense of us going after something with all of the heart, as we talked about last night. So the fact is that the reason why that sometimes there's complacency is because we don't want to go to all the effort that the Bible seems to say that we got to really do. In fact, it's a lot of hard work. And there are many people who believe in God and the good that He can bring, but are unwilling to live the life of obedience to experience the real benefit of God. So as a result of the challenge, of the commitment, we become complacent, and until there's a crisis in our life, God does not become the big deal in our life. And when that happens, there are some things that begin to result. A couple that I've really recognized, not only in my own journey, but in so many other people's lives that I get to spend time with, is when there's a lack of discipline in your life. You begin to allow these things to happen. There's no passion in your life for God, and seemingly no spiritual results in your life. And when there's no spiritual results, why do this God thing? What's the difference? Whatever. And the fact is that God really does want to move in our lives, but the fact is we lose the power. And the Bible talks about this in Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 to 12. I won't take the time right now because of the time tonight to read all that passage, but here's what it says. Discipline is not easy, and nobody likes to be corrected. So the thing that we've got to do is strengthen your weak areas. So here's a question for you. What am I complacent about? What is it that really seems to be no big deal right now? But the fact is that until it's a negative in my own life, will I allow it to matter? It really is something that we've got to pay attention to. Another threat that I think is really kind of something we got to be careful with is this thing I like to call the curiosity of questionable activity. How many of you are risk takers in the room? If someone dares you, it is done. If they triple dog dare you, count on it happening. There are some of you, let me just talk to the guys for a second. There are some of you fellas, you ever had some of your buddies go, come on man, let's do this, and you so don't want to do it, you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it at all, and there's like two young ladies standing there watching you, and all of a sudden you're like, think I'm afraid of that? How many of you have friends that have talked you into doing something really, really stupid? Everybody put your hand up. And after you're doing it, you're going, somebody here is an idiot, and I don't think it's me. But the curiosity, I just want to try it. I just want an adventure. I can control this. I've got this under control. And the biggest threat that you've got to be aware of are things that you know probably are not a good idea, but curiosity gets you to jump over the bridge, and then you end up trapped in places that really was just intended to be just for fun, just curious, just checking it out. And one of the things that I've discovered is I've never met an alcoholic that didn't take their first drink. I never met someone that got strung out on oxycodone that didn't have what? Their first party that had a little hit. It's amazing how curiosity can cause us to move. And the other thing is this, is sometimes those of us that have been raised in the church, how many of you have been in church most all your life? Put your hand up. I mean, like from the day that you were like 6 days old, you were in church. Put your hands down. You are the kind of people that you were laid down under the pew in church. Kind of like me, I grew up in church, and by the time I was 3, I could recognize all the grandma's ankles in the church. And there are some of you that have gone, you've heard so many sermons about Jesus, and some of you, I remember one of my biggest sins that I ever had to confess as a young child. I remember one day when I stole a piece of gum at the store, one piece. And I was absolutely convinced that hell was hot, and I was headed there. My mom caught me, made me go back and tell the guy that I was sorry. I was really messed up. And there are some of you in this room, it's not like you are on drugs. It's not like you're in some promiscuous relationship. But the fact is, you have allowed a platform for curiosity to take over your willingness to go all out for God. I just wonder. I wait. And then you kind of stand in the background and you just kind of go, I wonder if I did this. I wonder how big of a deal. You know what? If my friends pressure me, and you say no and no and no, but the fact is, there is a threat to your life because you don't take a strong position. You start to wonder. You imagine. Her name was Linda Corey. It was the 3rd grade. She was my next door neighbor, and she was amazing. My G.I. Joe liked her Barbie. Now, my mom, you remember last night, was older when I was born. So when my mom saw me growing up at age 8 or 9, I think she was afraid she was going to die before I got married. So she started setting me up early on. Linda was my girlfriend. My mom would tell me, you should carry her books home from school, and so I did. And oh man, I'd walk home every day, and I'd say, hey, you want to hang out? And one day my G.I. Joe and her Barbie decided it would be fun to kiss, and so my G.I. Joe kind of, hey, Barbie, baby. And so here I am at like 10 years old, and my G.I. Joe, big guy that I was, goes on Barbie. And then the next thing I know, I'm an innocent, church-going, God-loving young man, and that girl reached across and kissed me right on the lips. That aggressive young lady, how dare she? You evil one! She looked at me and she goes, I like you. Next day, I write a note. Dear Linda, I like you. Do you like me? If so, check the box. I give my buddy, deliver it to her friend gives it to her, she marks on the paper, puts a big hole in it, a big X, and says she likes me, and it was on. I'd be thinking about her all day, and man, curiosity, just curiosity. And then one day, as we were walking home from school, my mom had told me that I could hold her hand maybe one day. So I was holding her hand. She goes, Monty, I got to tell you something. And my dad told me last night, we're moving. Oh, yeah. I go, you laugh like that. You think that's nothing, but puppy love's real to the puppy. I was devastated. And you know what I learned? Curiosity can open you up to questionable activity really, really quickly. You give a moment to wonder. That's why the Bible says, let your mind be stayed on Him. Curiosity is a threat to your life. The Bible says this in James chapter 1, verses 13 and 14. It's actually one of the best pictures. I'd encourage you to read it in your Bible. Mark it and underline it. Because in James chapter 1, verses 13 and 14, he lays the framework of exactly how sin is put into play. It says, when sin begins to knock at the door, you are dragged away and enticed. And when desire is given birth and it is full grown, it leads to death. And as a result, we get lost. And you know what I see so many times when I speak at events like this and when I spend time with leaders and students? How curiosity has led to regret. I want to challenge you to be aware that when curiosity, which is not a bad word, leads you to being willing to lay down your standards and convictions, be careful. When complacency moves in, after curiosity is unsettled, then all of a sudden you begin to rationalize your actions. And when you begin to rationalize your actions, there moves into this thing in life that where you all of a sudden can begin to explain away almost anything. How many of you have brothers and sisters? How many of you have ever done something and gotten in trouble and you are absolutely willing to sacrifice them in order to become innocent? And you'll go, you know what, they did it, it was them. And they're like, And the fact is, you guys, is sometimes it's not that big of a deal. But what I've begun to understand is that so often we begin to allow these things to fester up in our lives, and then we begin to act on them, and you know what we do? We start blaming. Well, it was this. It was my friend. Well, if I'd never done this. And I'll never forget the night after my best friend in college and I were kind of having a struggle in our journey with Jesus, and we started allowing this curiosity to lead us to a place of thinking about how cool it would be to be in a band, and I was a drummer. Played drums for years, traveled in a band, across this country in a bus with tinted windows. Whoa. Meeting people all across the country. I'm a drummer. I'm 15. I'm traveling in a band. I've got friends in lots of cities, and it's fun. It was this big thing, and all of a sudden, we started thinking about the possibilities and going, man, I don't know if I want to play in church. You know, maybe we're going to play in some band. Hey, it would be really cool. My best friend, he was so talented, and I thought, man, this guy is really amazing, and we're going to go somewhere. And we put a band together, and we started looking, instead of going back to where our heart was, we started looking at bars and going to clubs and watching and saying, hey, we want to kind of cross over, and we just want to be more open. And we begin to see our relationship with Christ take a turn. I'll never forget the night we had a conversation, and we kind of came to our senses. And how many of you have best friends that are guys? Guys that are best friends? Guys that are best friends, they always have an ability to talk straight, usually with Mountain Dew or something like that. So my buddy goes, hey, Monty, we need to go get a Mountain Dew. And what that meant was we're about to talk straight. And he goes, we got to get our lives right. And we prayed, and we asked God to re-engage in our lives. And we kind of said we got to put away this curiosity and all these things that we're opening up these doors that are going to mess up our lives. And we prayed together, and then we said, hey, I'll see you tomorrow. We'll tell our other roommate tomorrow. We'll tell him about that. It'll be great. And so he said, hey, I'll see you there. We kind of did our little handshake. Hey, see you tomorrow. You're the best, man. Love you, bro. We got our lives right with God, and 2 hours later, I was called by my best friend's cousin and said, Monty, you need to come to the hospital. Bob's been hit by a drunk driver head on. 6 days later, his mom and dad couldn't determine whether they were going to keep the life support on him or not. Mom wanted to, and Dad said we need to trust God, and they said we can't decide. So, Monty, whatever you decide is what we'll do. I'm in a hospital room with my best friend. And I'll never forget the moment, you guys, when I put my hand around his hand, and the doctor came in, and nurse is standing behind me, and the parents had signed all the papers, and they were out in the hall because they couldn't stand the grief of watching their son maybe lose their life, but they were believing and praying, and all this whole church is outside praying. And I looked at the doctor, and I nodded my head. And this is how I did it. And I held on to his hand, and I said, come on, Bob. Come on, God. Wake up. Wake up. His body stiffened, and I watched a heart monitor. Tick-tick, tick-tick, tick-tick. You want to know the question I asked? Did God really, really answer our prayer? And I said to God, how could you do this? How could you, this curiosity, this one moment of curiosity, and now my best friend is dead. Come on. And I learned a lesson. Some moments and some months later, when I was having a conversation with God, torn up inside, and I was like, it seemed like God had ripped out my whole future, because this is my best friend. We had such a dream together, and we'd said, God, we're going to help you. And all of a sudden it hit me. It was as if God said to me, Monty, that moment of curiosity was covered by a moment of prayer. And Bob is with me today, but you must be aware of your curious moments. My son's name is Robbie, after my best friend, because I determined that I was not going to do something. I would not allow threats to a God-designed destiny for my life to put me in a position to lose the things that are most important to me in my life. There's a couple more that I think we have to be aware of, and then we're going to pray tonight. It's a big threat, and I think it's real. The word is called selfishness. We're good at taking care of ourselves. There are some of us that absolutely love it. Man, when we worry about ourselves more than anyone else, when what you want always is carried out over others' needs or interests, it's amazing how selfish we can become. And the Bible talks about it in James chapter 3, and he says, be careful when you have selfish ambition. And it's dangerous, gang, when you will say, oh, I just want to be able to glorify God, but you're really thinking about yourself. We can become so selfish in our motivations, and I want to encourage you, be aware of the threat of selfishness, because when selfishness is played out, it will establish this word in your life, and it's called pride. And when selfishness is full grown, you'll start believing in yourself more than you believe in anything else. And it'll become about you. And when pride happens, here's what takes place. Not only am I becoming a selfish person, but I now have a sense of that, you know what, I deserve this. I think that this is appropriate. And here's what happens. You become unwilling to admit you're wrong. How many of you absolutely hate to say you're sorry? It's just not fun. And some of you can explain yourselves away and just say, well, exactly what I was really trying to say is that, there were just some circumstances and situations to that. And it wasn't exactly the way that we really wanted that to go. But, all things being equal, it's really worked itself out. And, it's all cool. We're cool, right? And you just can't say it. We have pride. We're unwilling to admit that we need help. We're unwilling to fix our past when we've allowed those moments, those threats to take hold. And here's maybe one of the biggest ones when it comes to this whole sense of pride, is it talks about this in Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18. It says, pride comes before the destruction. And that once you know that you've got it, be aware, because it is a threat to the very spiritual existence of your life. And so we begin to leave the good thing left undone because we're more worried about ourselves. So how do we avoid those threats? First of all, I think we got to make some smart decisions. How many of you have a friend that's just smart, absolutely knows everything? It's just like, you're just kind of like, and some of you are going, that actually is me, but I'm humble. Didn't want to raise my hand, but the accuracy of your comment forced me to respond tonight. There are just some people that have the ability to just make smart decisions. And how many of you have the ability to mess things up quite effectively? Anyone in the house? And you're going, oops, that wasn't the way it was supposed to go. If you want to remove the threats of your life, make smart choices. I wish tonight I could put my whole pocket full of breath mints in my mouth, go up to every single one of you and say these words. Don't be an idiot. God has a plan, a destiny designed for you. Before you were born, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. This guy named Jeremiah, speaking to the people of God, said this, the plans that I have for you are beyond your ability to understand. And the fact is that I am aware, as now I've been speaking to teenagers now for over 30 years. I talk to teenagers. And you know what I see now? I become like a protective parent. It used to be just be cool. Hey, hang out, just chill. Make sure you spike your hair, have fun, wear cool clothes, speak, and they laugh, and it'll be good. We'll have a good time, show them Jesus. And now I look at the generation, I'm like, you mess with these kids, I'll kill you. My son, his name is Robbie. He got married to this amazing young lady, Charity. She's an amazing gal. As my mom would say, she's one of those people that's just pretty to the bone. It's just gorgeous. loves God. Just amazing. He gets married to her, and you won't believe what happened. They had a child. Now, all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm going to be like a grandfather. This is just like weird. I'm not ready for grandfatherhood. But when my son had his child, the one thing that happened that was an amazing thing, and I want you to reflect on my story last night. The first thing that my son said when he's holding his son was not, "I am your father." He really has grown. He said, "I want my dad to hold my son." Now remember my story about being afraid that I'd not be a good dad, be afraid that I had all this stuff in my past. And remember when I said your past does not have to design your future? I saw that happen. And the threats of my whole family being destroyed and my fears were destroyed because I saw my son have a son. And now his name's Lincoln and he's the dude. He's 5. He was with me the other day. We have boys' day out. And what that means is he can go out with Pops and we have sugar. And we just have a good time. So we're out together, and we're in the car, and we've had a really good time. He goes, "Pops," he goes, "You my friend best." And I'm like, "Son, do you know what you've just done for yourself right now? There's nothing you could say that I would not do for your life." And you know what? When I speak into places like this, one of the things that God put in my heart was the ability to be able to love people, and especially students. And when I look at this crowd tonight, I am absolutely in love with the fact that here's a generation that I think is going to get to do 10 times more than I'd ever do, 1,000 times things bigger than I'd ever have accomplished. And when I think about what I've done and I think about you, you know what? I get a little protective. Because I see how the enemy of God is trying to build things in your life that will destroy the destiny that God has for you. And it is not just a threat. It is an impending danger. So you must make smart decisions. So I wish I could tell every one of you, don't be an idiot. The second thing I would tell you is you need to make focused determinations. That tenacity talk last night was a big deal because you're going to need to have it in order to get rid of the threats. You got to make focused determinations. And for some of you, it is not easy. You know what I've noticed? Tell me if this isn't true in your world. Some of the most positive people that I've ever met have gone through some of the most difficult things in life. And you just kind of look at them and go, wow. And I believe that in this room, there are some people that have some amazingly challenging and negative stories that God wants to redeem. But I want to say to the massive amount of you that raised your hand that said you've been in church since you were 6 days old, your story is amazing because you don't have a series of regrets. You don't have this list of baggage that you're going to have to climb over. You have this absolute life that can be abundant. It can be so full. And so I want to challenge you, students, make smart determinations and don't allow the threats and the curiosity to take you a place that'll only keep you there longer than you want to stay and take you further than you want to go, and there will be destruction at the end. And the last thing I would just say to you tonight is that I want you to make sure that you hear this. You hold the keys to eliminating almost all of those threats in your life. Choice, not chance, determines destiny. So tonight I want to pray with you. I'm going to have Onassis come out who is going to play a song. Is one of you. It's about setting a fire. It's about allowing something to come inside your life that there would not be complacency. There would not be a lack of discipline. There would not be this curiosity that I allow to chew up my life, but I would allow there to be something that would come alive in me. And so right now, here's what I want to ask you to do. I want you to put your notebooks away. I want you to lean forward into Onassis tonight, because now this is one of your own generation. This is someone that's just in the journey with you, but he's going to sing a song tonight that I want you to know is coming from the very heart of God and from his heart to say to you, put this fire in your life. Do not let complacency be a part of the signature of your journey. So I want you to watch a young man who's now saying, I'm going to try to take my talent, I'm going to try to move it to another level, I'm going to try to amplify the things of God that are in my life, and I'm going to try to make a difference. So hear it from my generation and your generation. Let's set a fire. Let's come together. Let's go on a journey here and here and here. And let's eliminate the threats. Sing it for us tonight.
Thank you for listening to the 2014 Amplify podcast. For more information on the Oregon Ministry Network and our events, please visit our website at oregonag.org.